Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Here we are again, episode 3 of Daring to Suck TV, and I'm so excited to introduce my friend and spiritual badass, Jill Prescott.
Hello.
So we're going to wait for people to hop on. Oh my God, people are already here. Hello.
Oh, I can see myself now.
Okay, great. So we're just playing around with this Be Live TV stuff. So just bear with us. Hi, Ernie. Introduce yourself as you join. Let us know you're here and say hello. And Ala's here. And I'm going to make sure that this is going, obviously it's live because you guys are here. But yeah, this is very exciting. All right. So here we are. This is happening. Okay. So I'm going to make sure. I'm going to see all this stuff. Okay, good. Excellent. All right. So we'll give people a few minutes to join. And oh my gosh, lovely. Hello, Janess. Everybody's here.
All the girls are here.
The girls are here. There are any men out there. Say hello. Let yourselves be known.
Chris is coming on, I think.
Oh, good. Okay. And Chris is Jill's partner, who I'm also going to have on the show, which is very exciting. Oh, there he is. Hey, Chris. How do I pronounce Chris's last name?
Dubé.
Dubé.
Unless you're talking to Siri. And if you're talking to Siri, you have to say either Doobie or Doob. Otherwise, she doesn't even know who you're talking about. You won't phone him.
I'm just kidding. I love you, Chris. Thank you for being here. And Angela, welcome. Welcome, everybody. This is so exciting. Thank you for being here. We don't even know what we're going to talk about. But you know what? I know it's going to be good. I just know that. So please let me allow me to introduce, my friend properly. And then I will hand the mic over to her and fill in any gaps that she feels maybe I missed. But Jill Prescott is, in the last year, has become a very dear friend, and she's a mentor to me as well, and somebody that I admire greatly. But Jill's an international speaker. She's a workshop facilitator, a published best-selling author, hypnotherapist, coach, gifted intuitive, and energy healer. And then I dropped the mic because that's an amazing combination. And she just wrote this incredible book called No More Fucking Secrets, hence the adult conversation prompt in the description of this. But if you have little ones around, maybe you might want to put headphones on, because this is going to be probably an adult conversation, so there may be adult language. She has that in the title of her book, y'all. So go mark that. Go mark at that. No more effing secrets. And Jill guides, through her work, through all of her work, she guides women through trauma into freedom with love. She believes that each of us have all the answers within us and helps people open the channels to accessing that inner wisdom. And that is her wheelhouse. So Jill, what have I left out that you would love to express about what you're doing in the world?
That's a good question. So we just got back from a big, long trip. And what I noticed when we were away is that things are definitely shifting. So who knows what's going to come of it? But the one thing that I actually would leave something out, believe it or not. And not because it's not true, but because it's not such a big part of my work anymore, is the hypnotherapy. So that was like the catalyst for me. It was the way in. It was the crack me open. When I took that course, it's what set me on this path. So it definitely influences the work. It's a part of it in the way that I think it, I'm going to say that it, like I said, it opened the door to stuff, but it also helped me with languaging as far as doing the meditation work goes. It helped me understand people in a deeper way in the subconscious mind. However, I wouldn't take a client on just to do hypnosis with them anymore. Yeah.
So it was sort of one of those stepping stones in your own evolution.
Yeah. Huge aspect of it for sure. And I could, if I wanted to, it's still right there. You don't lose that kind of information, but it's not, the focus has really shifted more into the spiritual teaching with a really grounded earth-based conversation around it. Not the way out there. I mean, sometimes we go way out there. And I mean, what I mean by that, for anybody who doesn't really get that conversation, is, I can talk about what's happening universally, vibrational levels, and through all of that stuff. But even when I do, the intention is that it make an impact here in your life right now.
And that speaks to my thing right now is how human are we willing to be? And one of the reasons why I of course have Jill here is because I'm really, so one of the, I love to talk about edge walking. Now, Jill was the one that gave me that word. It was like when I was trying to describe to her what I wanted to do with this medium and this show, she's, oh, you want edge walkers. And I was just like, that is the word. Mm-hmm. And it's exactly why I've been drawn to Jill, or just really appreciate having her in my circle as a friend and somebody that I think mentors this human process beautifully, is because she's willing, and the edge I'm walking is around leadership, around vulnerable leadership, which sounds really officious, but it's not leadership like in a corporate sense or leadership even in a business sense. It's just leading in our own lives, like how vulnerable can we be to lead our own lives. And when I hop on Jill's lives in particular, she has this lovely vulnerability about like, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. I do, but I don't. Are you willing to kick the ball around with me and see where it goes? And this could, and you almost get the air like, this could completely go
sideways,
like, in the shitter. Like, you know, and I just, so it's kind of like that. And I love it. And the other thing that I appreciate is that your willingness to be in process.
Yeah, I don't know if it's really a willingness. It's just what is. Like, there's not really an option. So the whole Edgewalker thing, that what I had, or what came through to me, this is quite a while ago now, was this image of literally standing on the edge of the earth, as if, and then being willing to, and all these people out both sides, and then being willing to put your foot out and trust that new earth is going to get built, and that you're just not going to just fall into the abyss. So I think that we do that in what you're talking about, in the willingness to just show up and share what's there. I've just had this really lately, because of traveling, I think, I mean, obviously I pulled back from my work in a big way over the last month because we were traveling around Africa. And I would pop onto Facebook and I was seeing stuff like this, the promoting of programs and stuff. And I was just like, oh, fuck, it's just gross. Like, I can't get back into marketing the way shit has been being marketed. I can't do it. So I almost like, I'm checking myself too, to make sure that when I even come on something like this, or I do a Facebook Live or whatever we're doing, that if it's not like authentically of service, I'm not doing it. Like, I can't, and I got to check myself all the time. Where am I coming from when I post something? What is my intention here? Because there's been too much conversations of like, let me help you fix your broken self. So, you know, and I was broken, and therefore I can help you fix your broken. Well, yeah, that's kind of gross. So I don't know. I don't even know where I'm going with this exactly, other than like some shit's got to change.
Yeah. You know, I was having, and I don't know how this relates, but I'm being poked to say it, which is I had this conversation with Jen Lederer, and I've been pronouncing her name, the other day, about telling your story. And when I see people talk on stage, and you just told your story in your TEDx talk,
little tiny bit of it, yes,
little tiny, of course, thank you, because our, you know, to say my story is just this 5-minute requirement in a talk, or even in a Facebook Live. It's like the revealing of my stuff too, of like the, here's my stuff, so trust me, and there's that. I think that recipe is definitely valid to say, you know, what makes me want to talk about this thing.
Totally.
Here's my stuff a little bit. But it was interesting to just see that there can be this cookie cutter element of people saying, well, and this is where I put my story. And it's frustrating to think that, you know, where do you, what do you choose to share?
Yeah. And
like, how do you encompass everything that brought you here? And it opens up. So this is where I was wanting to go. It's opening up the credibility factor. Like, how credible am I oh yes, this is totally what we need to talk about. It's like, I don't care if you have a business. I don't care if you have a business. I don't give a crap about that. I think the world needs us more and more to stand up in our own personal leadership and say, I have something to say. Do I need a piece of paper for that? Do I need to have the TEDx talk or whatever to be able to, be able to say what I want to say, even if it might evolve.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Totally. It's constantly evolving. And the other part of it is that I am fucking sick of telling my story. I'm sick of telling my story. Like, really, I'm sick of telling my story. I don't want to talk anymore about what happened when I was a little girl. I don't. I'm done with it, like, in the sense of, like, not that there aren't times that it needs to be spoken, because I feel like everything that ever happened to you is layered, multi-layered, multi-dimensional, and that, I've said this before, if we have one lesson that we want to learn in this lifetime, and I believe that we come in with one kind of and that we came here to learn, that we actually only really need one major shakeup to learn that lesson. If we were smart enough to, like, take that sucker and peel it every layer back and, like, examine the shit out of it and pull it all apart, we'd only need to, like, get really screwed up once, but we're human, so that doesn't work. So I just feel like, yeah, there are times when a new insight will come about something that happened when I was young. There was a major insight that I had the other day, just being around my family again, about how we are with each other. And then, yeah, that's for sure something to share. But, like, retelling my story, I'm sick of it. Mm-hmm. So then how do you then move into the credibility thing? Because that's where people relate. There's also that aspect of it, right? Like, you need to get that I get you, but is that necessary? Or can you just understand that I get you because who I am and how I show up? So I'm really in a little bit of the mess of it right now, trying to sort it out and figure out how to move forward with this, because, there's a lot of potential with the TED Talk, and I do want to talk on more stages, and I do want to bring people into more workshops, and I want to do it internationally and all that stuff. So I understand that there's an aspect of it that I gotta kind of, like, go with. But how much do I have to go with, and how much can we just, like, fucking throw the workbook out the window and sort it out?
Well, this is where I almost felt the words "you got to suck it up" kind of bubble up to the surface about conforming. And if anyone's listening, it doesn't even have to be around business. It's like, to go along to get along, to make sure you get your foot in the door or whatever. I mean, the foot in the door, let's talk about that. You got a foot in the door with this talk. And I got a little, maybe. I mean, well, compared to other people that don't have maybe the exposure, to me, that's a pretty decent foot in the door. To at least say, hey, here's me, here's a snapshot of me. And here's a vibe of me. Here's all, right? Yeah, and whether that's through a TED Talk video or like a Facebook Live or something like that. Mm-hmm. But then, what if, this is what came out of me, which is like, what if you take that opportunity and train? Like the word train sort of, like to train people, like that, that's an edge right there, to be like, yeah, I know everybody behind me or ahead of me has done it this way. So here's what we're going to do. And, like, you can say, like, whether it's the TEDx people are like, what is she doing? She's breaking the model. She's now inviting us into a different conversation, which is, what if I didn't have this story? What if I was just a woman standing in front of you that wanted to connect? I mean, that's a very stripped down version of it. Yeah. But I mean, it really does challenge, I don't know. And then there's another little bit there about, it sounds really maybe wishy-washy or like not tangible enough, but the vibe of people, like there have been people that I've just heard them talk or I see them and I just know that I either need to spend more time with them, or there's a curiosity that takes hold of me that leads me. And this is where we're getting more into a less head. We talked about this a little bit with Chris, like traveling from the head down into a more instinctual place of living. Right. So what would you say about that?
Yeah, and it depends on who you're speaking to, right? So if you'd have said that to me 6 years ago, 7 years ago, I would have not, I was not open to the, and I mean, like, it's not like I wasn't open to the conversation. I would just have had no fucking idea what you were talking about. So I didn't have the capacity to listen that way at that time. And I needed people who were willing to speak to me, to share their stuff in order for me to connect with them so I could move into that next thing. Now, there are lots of people in the world who obviously would just get that conversation. So my other question is this a time of transition? Is this me moving from working with people who really are just beginning this conversation into people who get the conversation already, and that I could literally sit with in silence and have a complete session that way? Because that would totally rock my world. So, you know what I mean? And it's work, and it happens. There's people that I've been working with for a long time that will just sit and connect eye to eye, and everything comes through. Nothing's missing. We don't need a conversation about it. So, you know, you can imagine that scares the crap out of me too.
Yeah.
So,
well, and anyone listening, you know, to relate this into other aspects, I'm getting pinged with outgrowing things. Like, so this morning I was, I don't know, I was just sort of opening up to some ideas, like what might we talk about today? And this is so funny because here it is. It's around the fact that which I think is sometimes a shock to some people. It certainly would have been a shock to me years ago, for somebody to say, by the way, it's almost around that it's never done.
Yeah.
It's never done. But to hold other people in that place, like leaders or people out there having these conversations, to understand that they, you know, what is it? The life cycle of anything, and like the life cycle of a butterfly, there's a transformative like symbol if you've ever heard one, but there's like the egg, you know, is it just an idea, or is it something really, really new? Or is it the larva, which is you're like, you know, playing around with things, or you're like, you know, kind of hashing things out? Or is it like the cocoon where you're building and you're, you know, and then there's the coming out of the chrysalis, out of the cocoon, and it's like you're sharing it, and you're out there, and there's almost like this so newness that you're like, I couldn't do anything different if I tried, because here's
exactly.
And so whether that's in your work or in your family, outgrowing relationships, outgrowing friendships, and that edge of like, it kind of hurts. The awareness of, and here's like my hands are like the awareness of both coexisting right there. It's sometimes one of the worst places to be.
Yeah, it's really uncomfortable. Like right now, I'm just really uncomfortable in my life right now. So, and it's showing up everywhere. Nice, big, fat gold sore this morning when I got up. I mean, we literally got back yesterday morning to Vancouver. And last night as I'm sleeping, 4 or 5 times I woke up completely. I had no idea where I was. Like, and Chris wasn't there for the first time in 31 days. So, it was wild. And just like, going on Facebook and like looking at posts that are coming up on my feed going, I don't even want to look at this shit. And you know, there's nothing wrong with it. It's not like anybody's doing anything wrong or different or anything, but some major stuff's going on over here. So I'll give you another example. I have a program that I've been promoting since before I left for Africa. And it's all based on the book. It's called No More Fucking Secrets, The Evolution. Well, no one's registered. You know, so whatever. That happens. Yeah. And then of course, Andrea, my roommate, says to me, you know, have you thought about the fact that you don't like doing online programs, and that might be why nobody's registered? I'm like, yeah, I've thought about that. It's very true. I don't necessarily love doing the online programs. So what is that? Why am I, I want to do this because I want more people to walk through the book. But then there's this part of me who's like, yeah, yuck, I can't. What do I do with it, right? Like, you know, I can see clearly that it would be amazing for people to walk through the program with me, for sure. And then there's this other part of me going, yeah, you like doing things live. Like, what are you doing? So why am I doing it? And of course, this always comes back to the same freaking conversation over and over that I will have for the rest of my life, no matter what's going on. And that is, are we coming from love or are we coming from fear? That's it. So, and then it gets really screwed up and twisted because it's a combination of both. I love the work. I think that it's incredibly powerful work. This course could blow people's lives open. And I'm doing it, part of me is doing the online aspect, or is pursuing the online aspect, because I want to make sure that enough people can get it. And that's fear.
Right.
So, I kind of got to pull back a little bit and go, okay, it's not necessarily that it's a bad thing to run it online, but I need to check myself and make sure that that's, see where it's coming from.
So that is a great, because I think people listening to this are like, wow, how do I tune in to what that is? And in my work, I would ask people, like, I would almost say, if you're like to have the different voices, the different parts show up and almost interview them. That's definitely a style that if you were to tell everybody else to shut up and have this conversation, and you let them, like, what are you really honoring here? What are you wanting to happen? And just let that part be honest and blurt it down.
There's the key right there, is that we've got to be willing to really honestly look at our shit. And it's so hard. I mean, the ego is a tricky motherfucker. Yeah. So it can be really hard, but you got to be willing to, like, see the ugly, see the thing that's not love. You got to be willing to look at that and love yourself through it.
I noticed she didn't end it on a. It was like
because these conversations, they just get deeper and deeper into the shit, and that's good on one thing, but seriously, man, this is not like a love fest going on over here with me right now.
and yet I would argue or compliment that by saying, and yet it is the most loving act. Like, love, it really challenges us to see what love is, how the spectrum of how love shows up.
Can you love the ugly?
Yeah, the love is fierce. Love has us do things that we would never do, never even dream of doing, and making sacrifices, or all these things, because there is some. But to really be able to willingly blurt with ourselves, and I almost feel like the preemptive to open that door for me, I would have to say, well, could it be this? Like, actually even pose it as a question to get around the bouncers, because the bouncers are like, no, don't, if she sees us, she's going to come after us and she's going to love us and we're going to have to, like, go away. Like, there's
exactly.
Position, right? So it's like, well, could it be this? And it's like almost like a pinging process. Like, could it be the fact that I'm afraid? How does that feel? And if it feels like, like where your face just wants to melt off of your head. It's like, oh God, I think that might be it. Ew. Okay, maybe I need to walk away for a minute, go for a walk, and just, like, let that simmer. Because there's this, I think there's also this part of me that's like, go big or go home. And it doesn't have to be that harsh, like, rip your skin off and be like, I'm going to do this all in 5 minutes. It can just be a dipping the toe and being like, oh yeah, let's be tender. It's a very tender process. Yeah.
And I think that tenderness is mandatory. I think you miss stuff if you just try to rip the whole Band-Aid off at once. I think you need to slow it down and really, you get to a point where you understand that slow process is much more powerful than like just throw myself off the cliff thing, because I did that too. And it's just, I don't know. Nowadays, I really get that if you slow it down and really are willing to look at each individual little aspect of what you're going through, you're going to learn a whole lot more from it. And what are we here for except for that, right?
Yeah, exactly. I have this.
The school of work.
Like, oh my God, it's run faster. Oh, great. You look like shit, though. It's like, it's kind of like, or you feel like shit. How do you want the process to go? I think it's natural for the mind to just say, let's just get this done. Let's get it over with. And it's, you understand.
Get to the other side.
Yeah, you understand its intention. It actually wants to help. It's like, just let's get it over quickly, and then we'll rest at the end. But this exercise that I've done with clients where I'll say, move around the room at the pace that you think your life is right now. And they,
and so I get in the car.
Yeah, right. Get in the car. They'll walk around the room more so because it's more convenient on the phone or online. And, and they're like, and I said, so tell me what you're doing, or I can see them pretty, and just notice. There's no judgment here. To actually even practicing the no judgment piece of like, just notice. Yeah. All your job is to notice. And they're like, all right, well, I notice I'm moving quite quickly. My arms are kind of like really like this. And I don't know, it's just like, okay, so that's there. So I said, okay, we don't have to describe it. Just know it in your body, what that feels like. And I'll say, slow it down by half. And then we notice what's there.
That gets really uncomfortable.
and then for 2 minutes, and I'm like, you don't even have to talk, because I know you're doing the work right alongside me here. And then it's like, now by half. And then it's even slower. And it's like, it gets down to the, wow, I'm noticing that there's a lot of like dirt on my floor, like, or I missed a spot when I was cleaning the other day, or there's the grain in the wood of my floor looks like a picture of a Smurf or something, like something that you never would have seen. And it's fairly benign, the conversation, but it's definitely an experience that demonstrates, I think, what you're saying is that, you can rush through things or you can slow down and open up. And again, it is a very, it's dismantling, isn't it?
Well, I think too, what happens most of the times, we get ourselves in these situations like I'm in right now, or this like place of that things are changing and opening, and it's obviously I need to make some adjustments and all of that. And our natural instinct is to, okay, let me just throw everything at it. Let's just like change directions right now. If that doesn't work, I'll change directions again tomorrow. And I'm just going to keep trying new things until something clicks. But it doesn't click. You just need to like sit in it for a while and see what happens and stop panicking, because the panic is fear.
Yeah,
the willingness to sit in it is love.
Yeah, and very face melting. Looks like, but so what would you say about that when you say sit with it? How would you describe that process? Because I know how I describe it. When you say sit with it, or this whole be with it movement that people seem to either get or they're like, I don't get.
Yeah. Well, depends on what works for you. So for me, it's just a matter of waiting for something to arise. So, and examining the thoughts and noticing what I'm doing, where I'm putting my attention and my focus, and staying aware of when I am just like filling time. So catching myself doing dumb shit that doesn't need to be done and going outside, going for a walk instead. There's lots of people who will journal. There's people, a lot of people have process that they go through to stay slowed down in that. But I think the only kind of base conversation around this, and then do what you need to after that, is to be aware of when you're avoiding. Be aware of when you're like trying to shove through this stuff rather than listen. And then it's not that we never take action. It's just that we start taking actions from that place of knowing what the next best step is, rather than throwing something at the wall and hoping it sticks.
Yeah, I often find, with myself included, because I think we all, everybody needs their own level of sort of facilitation or loving adult supervision in this process. You being one of those people in my corner, is the doing and the being description. Like we can get the doing is so celebrated, all the accomplishments or the achievements or the results or the thing I got at the end, or the completed website, or the cake baked, it can be anything. And explaining the different value in the being with, like being in the process, or how does it feel when you are making the cake, and what is that for you, or the creative process,
and the times when there isn't anything in the space. When there's, that's the other part of it. Yeah, we can talk. With the TED Talk, I stayed really present through the process. It was 9 months. It was like giving birth. So I know that there was a lot that I gained, way more that I gained in the process of creating that sucker than it was of even being on stage and giving the talk. And then I'm really grateful that we left right afterwards and started traveling, because I know that I would have been looking for the next hit, the next thing to take my to start doing again, because I got used to there being something to strive for. So, and now I'm home and I'm feeling like that, what's the next thing? Like what, I need to promote this sucker. I need to like get more out, and where are the phone calls to get me to, you know what I mean? So it's that as well, is making sure that we're not getting trapped in that. There has to be something else all the working on, because the biggest, deepest work happens in the way, in the slowdown, in the parts where it's really, really effing uncomfortable to not be doing something. So then when that, but if we can push through it, just like on the other side of that, if we can like just hang with it long enough through that whole discomfort and all of the yucky, and because that's all fear that something else isn't going to show up, when we can, on the other side of that fear is where all the magic happens. So you just kind of got to hang.
To me, what you're describing is the relationship with self, of like, are you willing to love me? And by love me, don't talk mean to me while we're in silence, like while we're waiting. Like, are you, like, not even don't, it's like, will you be that friend that sits with that friend that doesn't have any answers, that is totally in process, that doesn't try to put your hand on their process?
That's right.
That is a love that, a lot of us, I strive to stay in, but I slip out all the time because of this human costume.
And here's the first sign that you're slipping out. When what comes into the mind is, I should. It's like the very beginning of that rabbit hole. I should be doing, I should be,
oh man. And boy, is it convincing. Like, I'm picking up on the whole, but I guess I honor or advocate for both sides, right? Like, just compassionately, like the mind is like, well, how are we going to do it? It can't even done. Like, it really is.
Oh yeah, there's panic.
Like, it reminds me of when my coach originally threw this question up, because you're talking about it as well, the attachment to an outcome. And the outcome, it doesn't always have to be like the TED Talk done, or standing on stage, or being like complete in that talk. It can be even in feedback, like what you're attached to about how people respond to anything you even say in a conversation. And it's insatiable, that attachment. When you're in that place, there's almost always another thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Replace it. And that to me is an indicator of, that's when I know I'm kind of being seduced, I guess, by this idea that I must, or I should keep in this way. And the idea that I picked up innocently along the way was that I should. Like, so it's like a totally different language that it does. It absolutely dismantles a lot. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we're getting into some pretty subtle, nuanced things around this whole conversation too. And part of it is also just taking a moment to pull back and remember that we're human. That this is a road that we're walking, that sometimes you're going to get it and sometimes you're not. And there's nothing wrong with that. And sometimes you'll get it for a really long time. And then you'll realize, if you get that whole concept of like, you actually have no fucking idea anytime, there's something really magical in having that in the forefront for yourself, that you just don't know what you're doing, and that it's okay to be led into something, because we get a little trapped in I've seen this so many times. I have the answers. I know what I'm doing. Like, it's all good. You may know the answers at that point, but you don't know what you don't know yet. And all of a sudden you like hit the brick wall. You don't get that you're constantly, they call it a learner's mind. If you don't stay in the learner's mind, you're going to get run over again. But if we I have no idea. Yeah, I'm doing what I'm doing. I'll share with you what I've learned so far. It's not complete. I don't have all the answers. Matter of fact, I don't have many answers at all, but I got a lot of really great questions. And, there's something really magical about staying in that space for ourselves and others, and especially for ourselves. I mean, the moment we stand up for ourselves, we're staying in that space for others too. So,
I feel like this conversation is rambling like crazy, but that's
no,
okay.
it's not, because what we're talking about is the transformation process. We've talked about it earlier with the leg, the larva, the cocoon. You're talking about it now, the learner's mind, the steps of what you know and what you don't know. Ignorance is bliss. Then you know, gross, it's awful. Then you practice, then you know. But guess what? This is what kills everybody when I tell that little fourth stepper of the learning process, or the levels of consciousness. You can throw a lot of things in that.
Yeah.
But even when you're at that top level, when you think, it's like breathing. I mean, there's still this ridiculously naive of like, and there's, by the way, it's the same as the first step. I see the first step and the fourth step as the same thing. It just means there's so that's really annoying to some people, but I'm like, to me, it feels very true. We could argue it. That's cool. But yeah, it's a ridiculously vulnerable process.
And we're not here to figure it out.
That's right. And so I feel like you and I, so to me, there's like, it comes down to a lot of perspective. How do you want to hold this information, everybody? And I will get to some questions in a second, because there's some good ones in here. And by the way, pose your questions if you've got some around this, because it's like, how do we navigate the life, the death, all the things in here? And there's this, I don't know. I mean, you could say that a few different ways, like, I don't know. And you're like, I don't want to go out. I don't want to know. I don't want to do anything until I know.
And it's not, I don't know, because I'm stupid. It's not about that, or it shouldn't be debilitating. It's more like, hey, you know what? I don't know. So I'm open to be led. And then it's going to be for that to happen. That's where that start getting pulled in of what it is that's the next conscious action, the next action that's actually going to pull you towards what it is that you're trying to create in the world, rather than just like the freaking, hamster on the hamster wheel.
I think what you're describing is either being open to change
or closed,
or being changed. Is either, because somebody asked this morning on Facebook, I love some of these questions that hook me. I'm like, I want to answer that one, which is what is vulnerability to you? And to me, it was being open to changing and being changed.
Yeah.
Like, to understand that I am here to be changed. I figure that's a big piece of this gig, is to be changed. And like, how do I want to hold the not knowingness? And not because I'm bad or I screwed up or any of that, like you said. It's an of courseness. Like, of course. It's like when I tell my kids, you're going to school, not because you're supposed to know everything, because my kid is like, oh my God, I don't know anything. He's already done that. What if I don't know stuff? I'm like, you're actually there to not know anything. And you just open yourself up to the relationships and to the learning, whatever hooks you. Pay attention, right?
Yeah.
And to pay attention to like what you like. Yeah, it's, I had a thread there. I think I lost it. But anyway, but yes, so it's staying open to being changed. And, I know what I was going with this perspective. Yes. So how do I hold not knowing? And to me, it has this funny double-edged sword. You can either see that as a great burden, like a pain, or even an expectation, like the disappointment of the expectation that you're supposed to, versus the delight of like, of course I don't know, like dummy, like to myself, I'm like, there's such an of courseness present for this for everybody. Is that if we like, this is where we do get to link arms and be like, there is so much I don't know and I'm not supposed to know. And same with
you'll know it when it's ready, when it's time for you to know it.
Well, then you're talking about like trusting the grander scheme, and talk about sitting in the seat of the thing called life.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoa. So with that hammer dropped on your faces, there's just a few questions. Please jump in. Maybe something that's hooked you or hit you in this conversation that you're like, tell me more about that, or how do you handle this? So Janess is here, and she's just here. Let me see if this works. There we go. She loves that we're talking about this, and that she's never felt she even had a story to share. If she doesn't have a story, then how can her people find her, and how can she be relatable? How does one build a connection without a story? Can you guys read that for some reason on my screen?
Yeah, I can. I don't know if we can on Facebook. Oh yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
Okay, good. And then I'll hide it so they can see our face.
So what I would say, Janess, is that everybody actually does have a story. Your entire life is a series of stories. That's what it's about. It's just, mine is going to look different than yours, but it's not necessarily going to have a different impact than yours. We all have it. So you know that your stories are impactful when you feel like you're drawn to do the thing that you love. And when you find the thing that you love and you look back over your life, you'll see where it's been connecting you to it all along. You know, I know a little bit about your history, and we've talked about this before, about your capacity to hold space for people who are passing over and be really present with people who are in suffering and in pain. There's something about that with you, and who gives a shit if you have a direct link that you can connect it to? It doesn't matter. You have that capacity.
And I was
speaking to that truth.
Yeah, and I would add, to me, it feels more like if I have something in me that's wanting to be expressed, there's am I willing, or am I willing to actually just start talking about it? And if that's my story, maybe that's just my message. And I don't mean to put the word just. I just mean maybe that's my message right now. And am I willing to say it out loud, knowing not everybody's going to get it, not everybody's going to understand it, but some people might. And there's a worth it factor kind of in it that is present. And it's almost like so I guess I believe that life is inherently playful. That's the perspective I hold. I know a lot of what we talked about is like being down in the shed and that's true also. And there is this almost little I know it's kind of tough, and are you willing to are you willing to play with it a little bit? Can you bring some playfulness to it?
Yeah.
So I think there's always an invitation, but again, I don't think we should tell our story or say things that we don't feel ready to. There's such a dance, isn't there?
And because it's the same thing. How much do you actually share? Where does it come to a point of people are just whoa, can't handle, they can't hear more because they're so fucked up from your story. So there's also that dance that has to be done, like you're saying, where why are you sharing it? That's the other part of it. If you're sharing it because you need someone to witness you sharing your story, then you need to find a counselor, or a guide or a coach or whatever, not me spewing it out on stage. So there's also that aspect, right? Why are you sharing it?
And be willing to just blurt.
Yeah.
But then what are you willing to share? What is it? What is worth sharing?
And I suppose anybody could ask me anything. I'll tell you anything. I'll share any of the ugly and the messy and all of that. So maybe if that's what they need, and also too, working with a client, and there's an aspect that needs to be shared privately with them so that they can see that it's survival. It doesn't necessarily have to be a big public stand or a statement on it either. We can use those stories on a quieter way, having an impact as well. Yeah.
That where sometimes your story's for you.
Yeah, totally.
Right. To maybe that being with it, because I don't think I ever feel. I don't know. There have been times when I know that there's a worth it factor, is what I would call it, a worth it factor present, that it's I think I can handle whatever happens from this. And that deepens the relationship I have with myself in the process. Yeah. Because then I'm just invited into, all right, let's say this goes completely down the shitter. Will you love me then? Will you still love me and not make me wrong for wanting, if you can understand the why, what Jill is saying, I think that's really good. Understand the why. Even sometimes you may even go into being I know that this might not totally serve me. I mean, that to me is also the playfulness of I've been all sorts of things on the spectrum. And I think that that's an opportunity for each one of us to explore here, that there is no right or wrong. There is just experience. That's how I would describe it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think everyone has that ripple effect.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be, this is the other thing I think, Jill, is that we're surrounded by people that are almost natural, that I'm surrounded by people that are natural influencers to me right now, even if there are people that really are poking my buttons, like they're influencing me, right? They are influencing me in a way that's challenging maybe something in me, but there are also people that are inspiring me. And I trust that the people that are around me, well, they're the ones that are around, and I'm not being haphazard, just like the Yosemite Samming my message all over the place. It's just like, well, here's what's here. And I don't know. I think it comes down to what you can hold. Yeah.
That's a good point.
What people will do with it and not. It's like if they care or not. That's where the attachment, I think that circles back into what am I attached to? What the why? So really, it's big stuff. Yeah. Oh, lots of hearts. Thank you. Just showing you some of these love. And that slow is powerful. Cindy's just commenting on that. This is where the fast gets all the super sexy. And is it? I mean, actually, that sounded very innuendo-y, and why not? It's like being with somebody I guess fast sex has its place. Or this could really take a turn, Jill. So maybe you might want to save me. But yeah, slow is nice too. Maybe we'll just leave it there.
See the comments anymore, so I have to go off of what you're doing over there.
Yeah, no, I'm putting them up. And lots of acknowledgements with I should, big sighs around.
Yeah. Or I don't have, I know another trap. Yeah. It's very much a trap, Angela. Hi, Angela. Yeah, it's very much a trap. I agree.
So what is the one, if I were to give you, I like this question, and I'll probably ask a lot of people on the show because we have a little bit of time before the hour study if you want to go a full hour, but it's like if you had this cosmic billboard and you could put any message you want on it for people to, see and understand and be changed by it, what would it say?
Remember that you are divinity in human form. I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, because we gotta there's why is this so important to me? If we think we're only human, it's like we are robbing ourselves from having the most powerful, delicious, impactful, gorgeous, juicy, amazing relationship that's possible. And then if we think we're only divine, then we miss out on all of the messy, gorgeous, beautiful, creative things that it is to be, that's possible. So when we really get that we are divine and we've chosen to come here in the human form, we can just be in all of it. And we start to get, you start to get present to everything that's happening. You question, you explore, you open to, fear starts diminishing and love starts coming to the surface. And then there's this possibility of having, again, just this profound relationship that's not possible until you get those two things. And I don't mean a relationship with somebody else, although it does every other relationship in your life, but this one with the aspect of you that doesn't have to brush its teeth in the morning. You know what I mean? There's something there that you just can't get in the human form. And there's a reason that as a soul, you landed in the human form that you can't get as a soul. So, yeah.
So that's
make any sense?
It does. So what I'm so aware of, do you remember earlier on when I had my hands out and I was like, oh, you're really straddling these two awarenesses, and we were using it in a very different context, and it's coming right back to me. And my experience of this, because Jill is several football fields ahead of me, I would say, in the development of this. Maybe not. She's gonna kick my ass for saying that, and I'll take it. But straddling both sides and understanding why would we? So you're saying, if we hang out on the divinity side, then we bypass. Then we're like, oh, you're so unconscious. Exactly. It's a spiritual ego. It's yeah, it can be, it's like spiritual bypassing. Oh, you're so unconscious. You haven't sat on your mat long enough. And again, I'm not totally being super shitty, but just that's the extreme side.
Yes.
And then the human side is like, I don't get it, or that's weird, or like not for me, closed off, or like, I have to have crystals to understand that. I need to pass to the club. My hands, by the way, in every episode are going to be having these funny conversations. If anyone saw them with Chris, it's like, hey, and then they make out. But yeah, like the human stuff is like, it's, and to me, I just say, all right, having straddled it officially and getting a greater understanding of both sides, what I want to say is, why would we want to limit our experience?
Fear.
Yeah. Oh, you're answering it. So mine was rhetorical. But yes, it's like, she nailed it for sure. Fear of like, who will I be? And I'm walking this. I joke about not being able to say namaste without saying motherfucker in my head, even just to keep my street cred, like for the part of me that really wants to have one foot here. It's humorous to me.
And you need to.
Way. Yes, totally. For me to hold it, I need to have a lot of humor around it. But I've had experiences where, oh gosh, that are really wild, very out there in some ways, but really friggin' tangible. Like having, I'll do this quickly, but I was driving once across the Granville Street Bridge in a fast moving car, and my sunroof was open, and I had just had a very transformative weekend. And this ladybug flew into my sunroof and landed on my shoulder. So think of the odds of that. One, okay, in the middle of a city. It's not like we're surrounded, by flowers. My car is not made of flowers. Anyway, so that happened, and it stayed on my shoulder all the way home. And I sat there and was like, what? Like, I was going to start having this weird conversation. And then I held it on my finger, and then I was just looking at it like, what? Like, being in a state of wonder, which is what you were talking about. Will I start questioning things, asking better questions? Is this real? Is this a thing? And I was like, what? And then I said, well, and I lifted it up to the sunroof, and I didn't really have any dialogue around it, but I was just like, a lot of questions were there. I was like, and I don't know what this is. And it flew off my finger, and I just felt really transfixed on it. As it flew away and it disappeared. And when I couldn't see anymore, I bawled. Something in me and I couldn't stop it. I just wept like waterfalls.
Mm-hmm.
And I reached out to the people that I knew had one foot in this spirit world. And my girlfriend said, oh, I'm getting something around it. She shared something that she knew nothing about a miscarriage that I had had. She said, I'm getting this, that it's a girl. And then that made me lose it, because I always felt like I had kind of a girl energy around that pregnancy that I lost. And she gave me all this information about, she's here, she wants you to know this, and she wanted to just pop in and let you know that there's more going on, that there are people surrounding you. And it just dismantled me, because part of me listening heard it in a whole nother, it heard it in a capital H way. And get this, so follow up 6 months later, I go to the island and I'm at her home, and she's doing some energy work, which I never had done before. Pendulums are out, all sorts of things are happening. And I'm opening up to this, like I'm really surrendering to her knowing. I'm surrendering to being changed by her and stepping into her world and being that vulnerable. Tell me, and like that I don't know everything, and I would love to open up to maybe what you know. And she got to a certain part of my body and it came up again. She said, there's something about the loss here. And she said, Keri-Anne, stop. And she said, open your eyes. And I look on the wall. Her room that we were working in, none of the windows were open. We had been there already. I had already been in the room. I hadn't noticed anything. And there was a ladybug, sure as shit, just sitting right by my head on the wall. Mm-hmm. And I just said, I could barely get the words out. And it kind of chokes me out now, but I was like, is it that magical? Like, is it?
Why not?
Thank you. So that cracked open possibilities that were being shown to me. And I was at that place of like, do I let this in or not? Like we have a freaking choice. We do. I could have fought it. I could still be fighting it. And I was like, why would I withhold that feeling that it gives me? Exactly. Of like, whoa, of that is real. Making it real for me opened up like 20 more doors that felt really great.
Yeah.
And so that's the question here, people. If you're pretending or you're surrounded by naysayers or whatever it is, it's like notice what you want to have for yourself.
And here's the other aspect of this. Everything that's ever been discovered about what it is to be human has started in the moment of wonder. Mm-hmm. If you go back to belief systems, 50, 60, 100, 200 years ago about how the body worked, all of the science, everything that's been proven in our medical system and all of that stuff started from a moment of wonder. And so, and without any evidence, there was somebody who wondered, and somebody had an experience that hadn't been acknowledged or spoken of before, that then had them dig a little deeper and open up a new possibility. So how do we know that at this point in time, our wonder about the things that we can't see right now are just putting us on the edge of an evolution where all of it will just be, well, of course your heart beats inside your chest. Like, you got a heart. That was not normal, but you know what I mean? Like, so how do we know that that's not where we're at in each moment?
Yeah, I really hope these conversations continue to have this element, because we talked about it with Chris as well. The idea of the imagination. Why would I withhold that gift that opens up so many other realms or possibilities just because I judged it for being a childlike thing? One of the best things that I heard recently, and it was so simple, I think you'll find, and I'm sure you felt this too, is that a lot of the things that have unraveled some pretty big stuff have been in the most simplest of questions or simplest of statements. Like,
absolutely.
I wonder. Even to just, so I was listening, I think it was Sonia Choquette. She has a great course, e-course out there, book, or around opening up psychic or like intuitive abilities. Mm-hmm. And she said, if you just sat and spent more time in the sentence, I wonder what Jill's doing right now. And like, just if I wanted to like open up my psychic abilities or something like that. Right. And she said to play in the room of I wonder. And if something's presenting itself to you like a time of tension or a time of, like you're saying, you're kind of in the mess of it. So to sit
all the threads,
all of it, and just say, I wonder. I usually say, like, what is this trying to show me? Mm-hmm. What might this be here for? Why tends to put us into a place of blame, so I stay away from one. So I would recommend that. But what would you like to say about that?
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. And then I'm coming right back to, I do not know, please lead me. Mm-hmm. I do not know. Just please lead me. I'm open to seeing. And, a lot of times the conversation sounds more like, hey, Jay, what's up?
Jay being the man that was celebrated this past weekend.
That's right. Yeah. The one that everybody, anyway, I'm not going into that conversation. No. We have 2 minutes left. Anyway.
Conversations with ascended masters and all.
Yeah.
No big deal. So yeah, it is a big deal, but that is definitely for
It's not a big deal.
I like that. Thank you. See, she schools me all the time. Mm-hmm. See, I'm still of that it's a big deal mentality. And I get reminded all the time, what if it's not a big deal? What if it's just, it's not. It's actually more present and more available than we think.
Yes. Very much so.
Thank you so much. Keep the thread going. Anyone catching the replay, if you have any questions, Jill and I will always pop in and address it. And just thank you all for being here. I'm going to show some of the love. If you guys have any things you want to share.
Thanks, Ernie.
Thank you for being here, Ernie, Tammy, Angela, Janess, Cindy, Barb, Colleen, Terry, Yvonne, Chris, who we will definitely have on the show. He's a very magical human being. And Alla, thank you guys. And how can people, reach you or connect with your?
Yeah, my website is jillprescott.ca. Mm-hmm. I have a request actually. So the TED Talk did go live, and right now the kind of intention is to have it be seen by a whole lot of people, because I'm getting feedback from the talk that is. It's like showing me that the impact is really big when people watch it. It's cracking people open. It's showing them that there's another way to do things, that you don't have to live in the pain that you've been living in. And so it's starting a conversation. It's not the be all or the end all. It's not going to like heal your life just by watching the video, but it's certainly going to move things. So watch it, share it. That would be my big ask on this. And I do a lot on Facebook. As a matter of fact, it's Monday. So Monday Musings is happening tonight for the first time in I haven't done it for the last 5 weeks while I traveled. So it should be interesting. I'm definitely going to need a nap beforehand.
Yeah, that jet lag is real.
Yeah, so those would be the best things to do. That the Jill Prescott, and then send me a personal one too on Facebook. I'll friend you, no problem. My thing is wide open. So
yeah, and I had the thank you, Jill, and I had the pleasure of seeing your talk live. And I don't know what the difference was. I'm sure you could read into it, but when I listened to the TED Talk, it was just so different. It was so different to experience that way. I had goosebumps where I didn't have it before. So that was really, it was like almost like a whole nother talk. And I'm not quite sure what the difference was there.
Well, possibly. Yeah. When you were watching me live, there's a little bit of you hoping I didn't fall flat on my face. So there's probably a little bit of that going on, like, oh shit.
No, definitely not. But but I think that there's something to be said about being in a room full of like 1,000 people or something.
Yeah,
there were a lot of people there.
Yeah, 2,600 people.
Lots more than that. I think maybe that would have something to do with it. There was a lot of energy in the room. And probably to stay grounded in it and just be there for you. I think that's actually what it was being there for you, because I had no doubt in my mind that you were going to do great. But yeah, when I listened to it, I felt really moved. So I put the link in the comments here for you to click and for it to be shared, because it's a very powerful message wherever you are in your life.
Awesome.
So, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, doll.
And thank you, everybody, for being here. Have a beautiful week, everybody. And as always, much love and daring from Jill and I. And all the life, death, and what the fucks.
That's right.
Bye, everybody.